everyone, and welcome to this podcast, Life, Leadership and Lemons, a conversation with Jamie Corcoran about making the most of what you have and learning to laugh along the way.
So welcome everyone to this week's episode of Life, Leadership and Lemons. Wherever you're watching from, I hope you're well. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, you're welcome along. Again, I want to encourage you, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe our channel, and so you can keep connected to us and keep getting this great content. Today's guest is actually a returning guest. He's the first, I suppose, returning guest on our podcast. We haven't had that many guests, full stop, so we haven't had any returning ones. So it's a good sign, Colin, that you're returning. Obviously, people really loved the interview we did 2 weeks ago about your journey in moving from Ireland to the UK and working through various companies to now owning your own. For all of our viewers and listeners that don't know, I haven't twigged this already, Colin is, of course, my uncle on my mother's side, and he's a great friend and great inspiration to myself and Lud personally. So welcome back, Colin. Good to see you.
Thank you. I'm back because you did promise to burn the photographs if I came back, so to get rid of the blackmail evidence. So yeah, so welcome to your lemon from the UK, calling you back.
Absolutely. So listen, obviously, you know, the last podcast was great. Got to hear a lot about your story. From your story, we heard some underlying principles that you've learned, have guided your, if you want to call it, success. That they've really resonated with a lot of people. Today, I want to move on and build from that foundation and kind of get into some questions, particularly questions around leadership, questions around business, and then, you know, even just questions about what it means to lead people. Obviously, as a business owner and as a manager, you're responsible for, as you mentioned last time, teams of people, and people matter to you. And it's a really cool core value that we share. And so today, I want to get into a little bit of more of the mechanics of what it means to lead in these uncertain times. Let me just jump right in and ask the question, kind of like an open question, which is around the whole kind of time that we find ourselves in, this COVID-19 time. We were just discussing before the call started about how the UK is still very much in the thick of it right now with infections and, of course, sadly, deaths. But how has COVID-19, in your opinion, affected both your business and business generally? And then off the back of that, then, could you comment on what are you doing differently as a result, or what have you seen companies do differently, innovatively, good or bad, that are worthy of noting?
Okay, so first of all, what's different is the hair is not getting cut. And I decided to start growing the beard back a little bit. So there's a major change in itself. No, I think none of it is ever foreseen what has happened, or certainly the impact of what has happened. Whoever thought that the government would be paying the wages of over 60% of the workforce, which I think is the right number, I might be wrong, and whoever thought that you couldn't go to the gym, or you couldn't go to the swimming pool, or you couldn't go to the pub or a restaurant, etc., etc., etc. So I think, you know, for all the business planning that we have, and for all the processes you put in place and all the risk management you've done, pandemic was always there somewhere in the ether, but I don't think we ever could have effectively planned for it the way we did. I can't remember if I said this before or not to you, Jamie, but when all this was sort of really starting to unwind, I was on holiday and I luckily had a couple of weeks out, and we're watching all this unwind. This was in early February. We as an organization, because being young, etc., we weren't sort of sat there with 20-year-old IT. So our IT was flexible enough to allow us to be reactive and do something different. We weren't bound by layers and layers of management. Yeah. So we could do things different. The fact is, it's changed everything and it's changed nothing, which is a really strange thing to say, isn't it? You know, our business, for a second, just to reach that up, is, you know, we work for the large water companies in the UK. There's 10 water wastewater companies in the UK. And we work for them, and they have millions of customers whose water pipes and sewers need to be maintained. Actually, in fact, that job got harder because people are all sat in offices all day are now working from home. So there's more people working from home. There's more people flushing stuff down toilets. There's more people using clean water. So from one way, that demand has actually, if anything, has gone up. But our ability to deliver against that demand has had pros and cons. So we've had to deal, with at periods a high level of absence as people self-isolate. We've had to deal with, up to, I think, about 30 people in our business who, under the government guidance, the government rules, are shielding. I think you call it cocooning in Ireland. Cocooning in Ireland. So, we've had people who've got either children, wives, partners, boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever, who have had letters off the government say, shield, and they felt, well, I'm unhappy going to work because we got this. So we've had to deal with that, and that's put pressure on people. We've had to look at the fundamentals of what we do as an organisation. So we closed our head office very, very quickly, but one of our main head operational office, I was up there last Thursday, and the team have done a fantastic job. We did assess the risks. There's one-way systems in, one-way systems out. We've had, believe it or not, but normally there's 4 or 5 cubicles in each of the toilets. We can only let one person at a time. So we've had to put different locks and different access and entry points. We've had to reassess absolutely everything that we do. Getting people washing facilities. All our vehicles have hand washing facilities in it, but getting liquid soap, getting hand gel, we're never far away from our hand gel, having hand gel. At one stage we were even looking about how we have 2 people in the front of a truck working together, so we got gangs out there working together. We had to assess that risk. So there's lots of practical things that we had to do. And from our side, we just had to work through that in a manner. For other businesses, it's been devastating, absolutely devastating. I have friends who are business owners, and they haven't had 1 penny of income in the door in whatever it is now, 12, 14, how many weeks it's been now. They've all the staff on furlough. They haven't even been into their offices, depending on what industry they're in and depending what they're doing. Now, I have to say, politics to one side, the government has done a great job here in providing financial support for people. Yeah. And that's not a political statement, it's just a general statement. I never thought I'd ever see that.
On that point, just as a matter of interest, because obviously, a big portion of our audience at the moment will be people who are in business or thinking going to business. And at the moment that I'm aware of, we don't have anyone in our community of faith that's in that position. But we have historically had people who have, in the last recession or for various reasons, lost their business or gone bankrupt. What would you say to someone right now, those friends? What have you said to those friends, as a matter of interest, to encourage them or to try kind of give them a sense of hope for the future?
My view as an individual is actually it's a pretty simple view. I'm not saying it's the right view, but it's my view, which is focus on what you can do, focus what you can influence. The stuff that's outside of your control and outside of your influence, there's no use using energy, your mind space to really focus on that. There's nothing you can do about that. Yeah. So, for example, if you were sat out there, and we were just on the point of opening a new shop, by the way, myself and business partner Michael. So luckily we hadn't done it. We went on hold it. But if you can't control it, focus what you can control and make the best out of what you can do. I was on a call, a Teams call there a couple weeks ago, and someone said, "Oh, we're all in the same boat." And this chap jumped up and said, "Well, actually, no, we're not. We're not on the same boat." He says, "We might be on the same sea, but we're not on the same boat." And I said, what do you mean by that? He said, "Well," he says, some of you will be in nice houses with nice offices, and in your houses you'll have good IT. Your children of a certain age. Some people are stuck in a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom apartments with no outside space, nowhere to work, etc. Some people will be stuck in bed sits with nobody about them at all, who are sat alone in a house. So whilst we think we're all in this same ocean bobbing along, we're all in very different boats. I think for anybody in business at the moment, my strong advice is, first of all, be calm. Yeah. everybody is on the same ocean, whatever the challenges are. Focus and get what help and support that you can, and plan for the future. I remember when I was a big corporate PLC many years ago, 2008, 2009 recession hit, and I always remember our chief executive said, look, he said, we're this big line, or we're a big company, he said, and we'll ride our way through the waves better than all these other smaller companies in their little bobbly boats who'll be finding it hard with the high waves. But he says, so we can be resolute over the next year or two in getting through this. But the problem we have is as soon as that water calms, all them little boats will be flexible, they'll be quick, they'll be maneuverable, and they'll just take off. Yeah. While we're still sitting there thinking about, has it settled down out there now?
Yeah, of course.
So focus on what you can do. Focus on where you're going from here. Make sure you get the help and support you can. Yeah. Focus on trying to support your people so that you're all there as soon as it lessens, as soon as the time is open the door, go. There's a pub round the corner from me. I don't really go into it that much, to be honest. About 10 minutes up the road in the village. And I noticed on Facebook one day they're doing meals for collection and delivery. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I said to Haley one day, my wife said, order dinner for Sunday. Yeah, we'll get Sunday dinner in. So she did. We went out, social distance collection of the meal. That little business, and they're doing their best. I'm sure they're not getting enough of it to pay the rent and the property and all that. Mm-hmm. But what they've got now in us is a connection that we're saying, you know something, we're going to go back to them. Yeah, we're going to go back to them, and we're going to spend money across their counter, and we're going to work with them to support.
I love that. So like what you're saying is focus on what you can control rather than stress what you can't control. I like the idea of staying connected, you know, whether it's with like-minded people or be supported, and focus on what would you call it, like a niche or customer kind of relationship, well, that going.
Everybody's a different place, mm-hmm. and everyone's got. So some people do business to business selling. Some people do, you know, customer selling. So everything is absolutely different. Connection is so important.
Connections
so important, you know, and you can use social media for that. People need to know, look, I'm still here. Yeah. I've gone to the same place to get my hair cut for 30 years. You know, he opened, you know, Paul will go to see. He's got a very successful business here in Derby now. He's got 4 or 5 barbers that work for him. You know, he's similar age to myself now, so he's got a situation to ring up and say, Paul, can I get a haircut at 2 o'clock on Saturday? Yeah, of course, Con, I'll put an appointment in for you. So he's just done really well. But the business they called Cutting Club, they've been shut down by the government. Yeah, so they're closed. So he hadn't long done his business up. He's getting lots of people say, "Oh, could you just do me a haircut, Paul, and quiet?" He can't because he's got to look after his own health and health of his people. But what they've been very good at, very, very good at, is saying to people, "Look, we're still here. We're conscious. You know, here's some things you can do. Here's
it's pretty good.
At home." They've launched a new app last week, which I thought was very good. Mm-hmm. That says, "Look, we're expecting potentially the date we have for the government's the 4th of July.
Yeah.
So register in now with your barber. It's not this new app. With your barber, 4th of July onwards. Yeah. And what they're saying is that if the 4th of July becomes the 10th of July, everything will just roll forward.
Yeah.
Got the opportunity. So he's connecting with his people. He's offering them a ray of light at the end of it. He's putting some stuff up on social media. Yeah. We're having some text exchange with him because he's due to be the granddad for the first time, literally in a day now. How's it going, Paul? How's the crack? And he's getting great response.
That's great. And so I love that connection. You know, stay in control what you can control. Don't worry what you can't control. Actually, I had that conversation with our own team this week as we plan a reopening as a church. Exact same idea, and that sense of you know staying visible and connected to your customers. You know, if there is someone listening or watching and they are going through a tough time, whether you're a business owner or not, again, I just want to highlight that we want to be able to be a support. We have a mechanism on our website, lighthouseChurch.ie, called Next Steps. And if you click that, there's a little box so you can tick just saying, I want to talk. And so we want to be a help and a support to anybody who's going through a tough time right now. On a personal level, Colin, what are you doing? Go ahead, yeah, you want to ask a question?
Well, before you move on, look, you've asked me from a business point of view, there are a couple of things I think are fundamental, and this is a very cold business answer now, yeah?
Okay.
Protect your cash.
Very good.
Protect your cash. The very first thing that we did when all this was kicking off is we protected our cash.
This is where people need to take notes. Number one, protect your cash.
We made hard decisions, yeah?
When you say protect your cash, you mean keep cash in hand as much as possible?
No, not so much keep hand. Collect what cash you can collect.
Okay.
We went into overdrive collecting cash. So we identified across the people that we work for, who might shut down their commercial offices, who might struggle. And we went in and had some very grown-up conversations with them. And our clients, I have to say, have been fantastic, by the way. They've been fantastic. But we had that conversation. We said, look, we know we're on 60 days, we know we're on 90 days, but hang on a minute. We've got to keep this ship on the road. You need to look at how this cash management is going to impact on you. And we spoke to them about putting measures in place for them to work around what the impact. So if your commercial team gets shut down from COVID, your finance team, how are you going to make sure the cash flows?
Interesting.
We were absolutely all over that. And we went out there and, I won't say aggressively, but strongly collected our cash. And we built the cash reserve. Off the back of that then, we identified where we needed to pay the money out. So, for example, we said salaries, wages, critical. Got to make sure people get paid on time. Small organizations who are reliant on, to go on hand to mouth, family owned, small ones, we said, right, inland revenue, all that, back of the queue.
Yeah.
Now it helped then, because we were having this conversation, the government come out and said, well, we'll suspend these payments. Excellent. We spoke to the finance companies. We got a lot of really expensive equipment. And we said, look, we might want to take what's the options around some payment holidays? Yeah, we're all ready for that. So we absolutely protected our cash to make sure that we could function, because the one thing that kills you is no cash. Cash is king. That's a fact. So, from a practical point of view, whatever your business model is, and it's easy for me to say this because if you're out cleaning people's houses, these people may not have lost their jobs, may not be able to pay you. So I am talking from a business-to-business point of view. But I think in any business, apart from all the stuff I just spoke a few moments ago, is protect your cash, look for what help is out there, look for what support's out there. Don't be too proud to go and claim a grant, claim a tax relief. Don't be too proud to claim employment support, employment relief that's out there. Because if you can do that, you can keep yourself in the black or marginally in the red, you will be ready to go again when that opportunity, and you guys are much closer to going than we are at the moment. But that is really critical. That's critical.
Super practical. Thank you. Moving on to a personal level, and talking a little about your team in a care sense. What are you doing to take care of yourself right now? Maybe physically, mentally, emotionally, and then on a team level, what are some things you've been thinking about, want to do, or are doing to help your team right now?
Okay, so I'm diabetic type 1, have been for, too many years now, 40 plus years. That at times is some better control than others. Last year I had some issues with coronary artery and had a few stents fitted and stuff like that. So what I've tried to do, I've had some success and it dropped off and I'm back in it again now, is to really try and get out there and walk, get a bit of exercise in, because I'm not walking or moving about anymore. Try to do a little bit of just look after my health and my mental side a little bit. I'm not great at that as an individual, to be honest with you. But I try.
What would you do there? Being so, I think most men in general would say I'm not great at that. So what are some things you're trying to do specifically for your mental health?
Well, for my mental health, I think actually getting out and doing a bit of walking. Listen, I put the earphones in. I'm not running. Look at me, I'm a bit fat. I'm not running, but I go out and I'll do a
The
bit
good
of.
thing is we can't see your fat because we can't see you in the camera, so we
I
wouldn't
know,
have known that. We said it.
very cleverly positioned camera. It's all about letting the world see what you want them to see. But so for me, I try for my mental health to have a start and finish to my working day.
Very good.
It's easier probably for me than many others because I said I'm not working from my kitchen.
Yeah.
So I try look at my business. Our business always being a separate business partner on the phone at all hours of the night. So you never fully get that. But I try and have that physical space that's separated, and I'm lucky that I can have that. But I don't take that for granted. I like to read. I like to read non-fiction stuff. I started listening to a lot of audiobooks. I find that when all this kicked off and I spent 2 or 3 weeks planning and doing everything around COVID, my whole life just seemed to be COVID, cash, finance, accounts and all that. I go to bed at night and I'm a bad sleeper anyway. I'm a 3-hour night type person and I could not get off to sleep. So I thought, right, I quite enjoy, if I'm doing a lot of driving, I listen to an audiobook. I'm going to listen to these in bed at night. My eyes would be sore, I wouldn't want to read. So I put the headphones in, wake up 2 hours later, strangled with the leads from the headphones. But that would help me.
I get you a pair of these for Christmas.
Yeah, but I can't put it in though because I like them on the outside of my ears, not in the ears.
Oh, okay. I get you a pair of wireless. I get you a set of wireless ones.
So anyhow, so I try to get that break by listening and doing something else.
Getting out, I think you mentioned it, and but it's worth kind of restating. Getting outdoors, fresh air is just, even if, like you said, it's a short walk, even listen to something. Fresh air is so important.
We've got a lovely garden. And not to me, Haley, my wife's brilliant.
Of course, yeah, we know the truth.
We've seen it. It's a lovely garden, south facing, catches the sun. It's just great place to sit out there. It's very peaceful. It's not overlooked. Great trees and all that. And even going down and having lunch on the patio and just sitting there and chilling out. But I'm going for a walk. I find relaxed. I don't do enough. I need to do much more of it. And I always end up on the phone to somebody because I always get a call. But I try as much as possible to cut the call short and just put either some music or audiobook on and just walk. And you come back and you feel better for it physically and you feel better for it mentally. And I do think the fresh air, everybody's different. And I don't take that for granted,
What about your teams? I mean, I know obviously we're still in the middle of this thing and you guys, like you said, are still much more in the middle than we are. What are some things you've done for your teams or thinking of doing for your teams?
Well, I think we say, what have we done? Or, I don't like to think of it like that. It's what have we as an organization done? What we've seen in the businesses, so quite perversely, we've got a lot of people, the majority of our people are still going to work. Mm-hmm. They're what's called key workers in the UK. Yeah. And they're still going to work. The office administration, the back office is all working from home. So what we have, you would think that the people going to work, well, they're okay, their life is continuing on, but they got a lot of different mental anguish, about, well, so first of all, some of these people are getting paid to sit at home all day and I'm still out here working. Yeah. So that goes through their mind. But a lot of people, they're scared. They're worried, they're thinking, my God, I'm going to work and am I protected and am I safe? Am I doing the right things? And we've had to, and I guess I can't tell you we've done this right or wrong. Quite interestingly, we literally sent out a survey to people this week on our communication strategy, get some feedback on it. So I think it's closes tonight. We did a survey monkey with everybody. But we've tried to really help and support those people in understanding what the
well, even just a quick, even that though, even like, I mean, the amount of, and this is true not just a business, but I see this all the time in the non-profit world, different boards I've been on, helping different churches. There's a big difference between leaders thinking they know what people are thinking and leaders actually listening to people to understand their thinking. So even the idea of that you just mentioned in passing, a survey, a place where you can actually ask your people, what are their challenges, what are they feeling, so that you can be informed in decision making that actually helps them. So that's actually worth mentioning as a point for caring for people.
It's a great point, because conversation is talking and listening.
Yeah.
Two of these, one
Exactly.
of these is reason. Yeah?
Yeah.
Albeit that many people argue I use this too much and don't use it enough. But I guess back what we've done, we've tried to really work with our people to understand what are their issues, and you got to sort of do it at a group level. It's very hard to understand independently. We have all of this stuff you would expect us to have. We have the helplines, we have the 24-hour helplines people can ring for support, advice, and all those things, independent from the line management. But at the end of the day, telling teams that are out there and getting into vehicles, you're safe to do that, and here's the reason why. In the very early stages, we were out. We went out in the very early stages. People were sort of really unsure, and we were really concerned that people wouldn't want to come to work. So we said, "Well, tell you what we'll do. We'll give people the choice of going in two vehicles to a job.
Very good.
The one drives a truck, then the one follows it." And we were thinking, "Christ, this is going to cost an absolute fortune." But on reflection, actually, we did that, as well as a whole communications piece of what we're doing. We bought new PPE. We gave availability of the risk assessments and new method statements, et cetera, that they have to have. Quite interestingly, I think we lined up something like 125 vans that we were going to have to hire in to make this happen. We never used any.
Yeah. That's a really interesting principle. I had a call yesterday with one of the venues that we rent, and we're having this conversation around what is perceived safety and necessary safety.
Yeah.
That when you lead an organization that values people first, you'll put a lot more energy and investment, because quite frankly it costs money. Like, I don't know how much 120 vans cost, but I imagine it's a lot of money. Just so you're saying to your people, if this matters to you, you matter to us, therefore this matters to us, and we're prepared to invest in this because you matter. And that in the end, they didn't need it, which is great, but they knew in that moment that they knew where they stood in the value scheme of your organization, which I think is a huge, huge point. At any scale, that's scalable for any business. If you're a small business owner, or we have people who are going to be listening today who are working for multinationals, big corporations, small business owners, construction companies, so on, various management levels, even nonprofits. That principle, I think, is huge. That your people first, not just in word, but when necessary. I think COVID has created a great opportunity for us to show that value by going above and beyond in terms of their safety. So that's a great point.
And it's only on this conversation sort of reflecting back on that piece, But I think at the end of the day, that community of people, you have to put yourself in their shoes, or you have to ask them what they believe it is, and you have to listen, and you have to do it. We're lucky with a really great management team, and they're they're connected, and a lot of us have just come off the tools and the crews, so we know where they've been. But then we had the next community of people, which were the people that were working from home. Well, arguably they're protected, inverted commas, but they're working from home. But they're working from home in not always ideal situations. Not everybody has an office at home.
It's true.
So they had very different challenges. They had seclusion. Am I out with a loop?
Yeah.
What's happening? I'm not there. Human beings are very social animals.
Yeah.
They like that engagement. They like that contact. So we had to really think about the people that had seclusion or even though they wouldn't maybe own up to say that they were feeling secluded, that were behind the scenes. We had to think about the practicality. So, for example, we'd be having a Teams call, and we'd say, okay, who are the parents on this call? You set the time for the call.
Very good. Yeah.
We'll work around you, because not only are they working from home, they're homeschooling. Yeah. So we said we'll work around you. I've no kids. I'm flexible. I'll do it anytime. It's like today I've had back-to-back calls today. It's just been one of stupid days. But twice today we stopped the call because two different parents, one a man and one a woman actually, both had crying children in the middle of the call. I said, well, let's just stop for a minute. Do you want to go and deal with that? Do you want to take a time out? Should we come back in
Very
20
good.
minutes, half an
Yeah.
hour?
Yeah. Very
Blah
good.
blah blah blah. And you know, we've had to try and think
Yeah,
about how to
again,
manage that.
little things, but they communicate big values.
One of the things that certainly I try to do, and I think there's quite a few people that do it. So, for example, today, one of the people I was speaking to, and our child, little toddler, burst into the room. You know, I think dad was maybe doing the childcare for an hour, mum was on the call. And I just, no, I won't say her name, but put him on the call, bring him up. Let me say hello. Let's say hello. And I've got to know quite a few of our workers' children over the last 7 or 8 weeks. So I always encourage them, stick them on the call.
Good opportunity,
Not stick them on there. Normally I just frighten them away. So, we're getting out of here. It's a scary man on the screen. But so what did we have to do? We had to create an environment in which our people could flourish. We had to realize it wasn't about clocking on at 8 o'clock in the morning and work till 5 o'clock. It's about that give and take, allowing people that flexibility. But what we also recognize is that people's productivities have gone up.
Yeah.
People are getting through their work faster.
Yeah.
So creating that environment. So we had to really think about that. We had to think that there's a lot of practical side.
Mm-hmm.
Have you got the right IT? You know, have you got the right IT? You've got the right broadband. Do you need data dongles? What do you need to be able to allow you to function? And then there was the third community, and this was the community that I guess we call it in the UK, I don't know what we call it now, we're furloughed. So with a very small amount of people, we managed to keep everybody working, but there was number of people we had to furlough, and that was mostly because a couple of the gas contracts.
Furlough, for those who are listening and haven't been tracking the news UK, are people who basically have been paid to go home and not work, essentially.
80% of their salary.
80%.
To a maximum of £2,500 a month. So it's not all apple pie for them, but it's the furlough was brought in by the UK government to stop you making people redundant. Yeah. But we've had people who've had the furlough because they couldn't work without. Now they're a completely different brand issue people because they need something different. They need reassurance that we ain't thinking the worst about you. You know, you're still important to us.
Very good.
Don't worry, we're not looking to make you redundant because you wouldn't work through this process. So the communication around them is going to be really thinking about that, thinking about how we do that. So, you know, everyone's still included in all our communications. We went to weekly communications. So there's communications go out weekly to try and connect with everyone. And on the furlough people, we've written to them a couple of times formally to say, you know, here's a letter. And by the way, you can still access Health Assured and all these support functions. And that was critical. One last thing that positive side came out is what we seen was within our business, and I don't know was it down to the culture of the business, just down to the quality of our people. We really encouraged our people to have a bit of fun. So if you get a chance, look on the Sapphire Utility Solutions either Facebook page.
Oh yes, I've seen some of this. Yeah.
And our teams undoubtedly did some really funny videos.
Yeah.
We didn't do it. It's not Sapphire. It's not coordinated. It's not coerced. But we encouraged our teams. You know, one of our teams decided there's a local hospice up near our offices at Preston, a very good hospice called Darien Hospice, and they decided to raise money for them. They all decided to have their head shaved off. You know, and everybody got behind it, and they raised £1,400, something like that. You know, there was a very funny videos and photographs put out about that. There was just some really good stuff done. And that sense, and we really pushed that out there. We pushed it out in the communication. So in our weekly communications, we really focused on good news stories. I was saying to everyone, there's no one in this world at the moment that doesn't know about COVID.
Yeah.
You know, we're sick of it. I'm looking at TV screens here in front of me at the moment. I've got the news channels on.
Yeah.
It's rammed in my face.
Yeah.
You don't need Sapphire Utility Solutions to bloody tell them that you got to self-isolate.
Yes.
You know, so we really tried to get a focus on positive news and good news. We did little things again to try and all of a sudden with all these people working at home with their kids, all these people in our sector is known for most of the people who work utilities being driven by long hours and stuff like that. So we put competitions in place to work with you, get art competitions, poetry competitions.
Very good.
And then every week we were awarding prizes to different age ranges for their picture, their photograph, or whatever they pushed in, encouraging, and we are a predominantly male macho organization. You go and spend, sometimes you're a kiddie, get in the draw something, sit with them, spend a half an hour with them, help them, send it in, and then hopefully they can win a prize. But everyone that did it got a certificate through and stuff like that. So we try to think about what do people need to have that connectivity.
But again, it's so underrated, fun, encouraging fun, community engagement, family engagement, but all that feeds back to the value that people matter, and that ultimately when people are more healthy, they're more productive, which really is something that I think all leaders need to kind of either be reminded of or get a grip of, is that when we put people first. I think it was Zig Ziglar who said, if you help people get what they want, they'll help you get what you want. Right. And of course, he didn't mean that in terms of a use and abuse, but he meant it more in terms of if you help people be, then whatever it is you're trying to achieve, they'll feel connected to you personally and connected to that vision personally, which is a great thing for, again, it doesn't matter if we have people who are listening today who are managers in hospital institutions, business people who are obviously serving in different churches or charities. I mean, help people succeed, help them be better, help them be healthy, and they'll be fruitful and productive. And I think fun is a huge part of that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think as leaders, managers, and myself and Michael, my business partner, we've discussed this endlessly, but you're trying to plot your way through an unknown course. Mm-hmm. Contracts go wrong. We're used to that. We know how to step in. We know how to commercially make it. We know what to do to put things right. This is uncharted territory for so many people. So you're just trying to do what you can. Sometimes you do something, go, oh yeah, that was brilliant. But you think, gosh, that was lucky.
Yeah.
Sometimes you really think something through and you do it and think, oh, well, that wasn't as good as I expected. That's a bit disappointing.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you've got to do something, and you've got to try and get it right. We look at so many dashboards, so many measures of success, productivity, profitability, output, customer satisfaction, safety, quality assurance, environmental. The one thing I can tell you, our most profitable teams are our safest, with quality embedded. Generally, you've got less sickness, less people leaving the business. Yeah. Our high-performing teams, there's not one measure. So, it's all interlinked. And we're dealing with people, we're not putting widgets in a can as it goes down the line. Our people, a lot of them very, very much unsupervised. They disappear in the yard in the morning. There's a program on one of the cable TVs called Sewermen. It's on a Thursday night on Paramount or something like that. And a lot of our kit and our people are on that. Working for MD Utilities. It's on 9 o'clock every Thursday night. You look at it, you think, oh, it's quite boring, but it shows the environment that our people work within and what they have to do. And you just got to try and do the right thing.
Again, in that kind of side note that you're making is another great principle, because what you're saying is that if it's people first, and if they love themselves and they love the people they love and they love what they do and they feel loved and they're highly productive, then they can also be highly trustworthy. You can create a high trust culture because you know that because you've got their best interests at heart, they have your best interests at heart. Like you said, they leave the yard in the morning. And again, it's not universal because people are people and people have human nature. We all do, myself included. But for the most part, the culture of the organization, again, whether it's a small church, whether it's a large organization, this is a principle that's true everywhere, is one more. And people are taken care of, the business will be taken care of, and therefore you can trust more. Yeah. Which is what I think a lot of leaders want. They want to be able to not have to worry about, gosh, do I have to go over now and check, micromanage everything. Well, you do when people aren't in love, don't love themselves, as in, they're not well mentally or physically. Maybe things are not well at home, maybe things are not well in the business, maybe they don't love what they're doing. And of course, then things are going to fall apart behind the scenes. It should be expected.
But
It's a great
Jamie,
principle.
no, and that's a really good summary. But look, don't get it wrong. We're a hard-nosed commercial organisation. Yeah, we break eggs. Yeah, that happens. Yeah, I won't use some in a different audience. Might use different language
Yes.
to make the point. But we're a hard-nosed organisation, and you're trying to deal with stuff. So I don't want people to think that, oh, this guy sat there saying he does all these things. A lot of this comes through not because it's as what we want to do. That's our aspiration, is to do everything. But we are a hard-nosed organisation. You know, I had conversations, and there's been emails around today about utilization of kit and equipment and why they're not getting the lorries out on time and why is this not happening and why are there sales here and why is this happening. Do not kid yourself, you know. You have to find the balance, you know, and we try to do the right things, but sometimes we still have to make choices.
Yeah.
We're not a charity. We're not a religion. You know, we're not
for-profit commercial entity. It needs to make money, of course.
We're not the NHS or the HSE, I think you call them in Ireland. You know, so as much as we want to wrap people up in cotton wool and take all the problems away, sometimes it's hard choices to be made. Yeah. But that should not stop you from trying to do your best. And we work in an industry that's a small profit industry. You know, we don't make double-digit profits. So we're not a Google. We're not, you know, some of these big organizations that can go out there and invest in all this soft and bubbly stuff. But actually what we're talking about is the very basics of humanity. Yeah. And that's what you need to do. But sometimes tough decisions have got to be made. Absolutely. And they've got to be had. And but kind of way of doing that.
And moving on from that, kind of just jump in to a couple of the listeners' questions. Just on the back of that, I think it's a good kind of segue into this first question. Talking about leadership then, okay, because that is a leadership perspective. The tension of we care for people, and people are emotional, soft beings, but we're running an organization business. And I can tell you now, from this side of the fence, even though we're not a for-profit thing, any successful organization, for-profit or non-profit, needs to have strong leadership, tough conversations. If it's going to be effective, that's just true in life. So to talk about leadership that transcends all of those different sectors, what do you think, what is the question we've been asked here is, what is the most important part of leadership right now from your perspective? In other words, what is a leader's most important job right now?
Well, leadership's a word I don't really like, I have to say, because I don't know. I feel like we're all going to a David Brent type situation. We need to go and buy an American book on the skills of leadership.
Well, if you write it, I'll buy it.
Yeah, and let's be absolutely honest. I get a lot of criticisms about my personal style, and people will tell you lots of negative things about what I do or don't do, and so I don't think anybody can hold themselves up and say, "Well, I'm the perfect
leader." Of course. There you go.
I think
that's a good start. There's no perfect leader.
There's no perfect leader. Absolutely. I think the first thing I would think is honesty.
Excellent. Okay.
Honesty. I at times have to make some very difficult decisions. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so important that when you make those difficult decisions, that you're honest with people about why you're making those difficult decisions. I'll give you an example. I was at an employee forum, so once a month we get representatives, elected representatives across the business, and I meet with them with a couple of senior managers, and we talk about what's going on in the business. It might be as simple as which type of boots we should be supplying, right through to rates of pay and hours. It's everything in between. We don't recognize unions in our business, but we do recognize the need for people to be represented.
Excellent.
And I was getting a big push back there a few months ago about from one team of people felt they were pushing really hard for a pay rise. They actually had a decent enough case for that, but we weren't in a position to do it. We weren't in a position to deal with it. And you could hide behind it forever and make excuses. And I just very openly leveled them. I said, well, look, I get your point. I actually have some sympathy for you, but this is what we get paid by the client. This is what I pay to you. These are my costs. And as we stand here at the moment, if I pay you that, then with respect, I'm going to be paying you to go to work. And that makes, I'm going to be subsidizing what we get as a company.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And that makes no sense. However, first of all, let's recognize of that community, X% have already had a pay rise in the last 12 months. So with respect, that X% really should step back. Y% haven't had a pay rise, and we need to find a way of dealing with that. But ultimately, this is where you are on the quartile of payments.
Yes.
And you're in the upper quarter. So I didn't try, there was no, could have minced about it and go back in my head of HR was going with that. And, these are things you can't say, but you just got to be honest with people.
Brilliant.
Just be straight with them. Most people will listen to what you've got to say. You agree to disagree, but most people line up now. Those people.
Again, that's so good because we look at certain scandals in the church world, in the political world, or in the business world, because again, it's a pervasive thing. People don't like being treated as if they're stupid.
Yeah.
And even if people don't like what they're hearing, what they will respect is that the person was willing to treat them like an adult and tell them the truth. I think that's outstanding.
And I think that for me is honesty is the most important thing. It's lovely to deliver good news. Yeah. I love delivering good news. Yeah. There's nothing nice when you stand up in front of 200 or 300 people and say, we've done all these things, aren't we great? No, by the way, we're going to get you this, we're going to get you that. That's great, and it's, it strokes your ego and all that, but people sort of just take that for granted. So I think one of the most important things is honesty. I think that, and that's in your personal life as well as, you and I have had conversations before, and I've told you, well, yeah, Jamie, I get what you're doing, I respect what you're doing, but it's not me, and we've had that conversation, and vice versa back the other way. So I think people get that. I think for me, that's really, really important. I think the thing that's really important at the moment is visibility. People are looking for visibility. It's very hard to visibility when you're all self-isolating, or you're out there. So whether it's through communications, whether it's through video, whether it's through social media, whether it's through letters to people's houses, whether it's getting into that depot, into the office and just being seen.
Yeah, and again, I mean, just our listeners and viewers won't know this, but we were on the phone the other day and you were on your way to your office, which, again, the audience won't be aware is about an hour and a half away from where you live.
2 hours.
2 hours. And, you just said you're diabetic and so on, and you're in that kind of situation. But you were saying it's important I'm visible right now. I'm going to walk through the office, talk to my staff, slowly go through the corridors, modeling that principle that visibility is huge right now.
People want assurance. In our company, and Michael, so for this part, he's out there today. He's been on sites today, and he's been in the office today. So so the two of us doing the exact same. But I think what's really important is people also want reassurance. People want to say, look, the world's pretty rubbish at the moment. They want you to say, look, don't worry. Business is going well. Don't worry. We're on top of everything. People say, how are we doing? Look, we're doing well at the moment. It says, all you guys are turning out, you're coming to work, you're doing is a good job. We're billing our clients. We're collecting our cash. We're completing the jobs. We're still investing in kit and equipment. We've just had our ISO all approved. We're through audits remotely and all that. We're still negotiating. People just want to hear some positivity. Yeah. The last thing people hear say, oh, I'm not very good. There's 29 vehicles parked up today. There might be 29 vehicles parked up today, but they don't really need to hear that.
Yeah, exactly.
Looking for some openness, some visibility. They want to see some leadership, whether it's from their political leaders, whether it's from their medical leaders.
Their employers.
The world needs leadership at the moment. I'm not a leader. That's not my job. All I can do is try and manage the people that we interact and work with. And just give them some confidence that, we're doing okay.
Brilliant.
Keep at it. Keep steady. Keep your head down. As I say over here, keep your head down, your ass up. If you're shoveling, your head's always down, your ass is always up. In the UK, we use short handle shovels. In England, in Ireland, use long handle shovels.
That's true.
You shovel standing up. In England, we shovel down. So I always say, head down, ass up. Keep going. We're doing okay. Don't worry. We're doing okay. We've got problems, we've got challenges, but we're managing our way through them.
Yeah.
You know, your job's safe, your family's safe. I've got the money in the bank to pay you. That's
okay, so just conscious of time, so we're almost wrapping up. Just ask you two questions. One more question from our audience, and then I'll ask you a closing question. The question we got here is, if you, Colin, your mature self now, could go back, I don't know, 20, 30 years and talk to a more immature version of yourself, a younger version of yourself, what advice would you give your younger self? Great question.
It is a good question. It's a deep question, and I could say whatever advice I give my younger self, I wouldn't have listened. I see that I've got a son and I got a daughter.
Yeah.
I've got a 23-year-old son who's so different to me. I've got a 25-year-old daughter. I'm so proud of her. She's doing so really, really well for herself.
Yeah.
But when I try and say, well, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that, I get that look to say, old man's going again. Young. No, I genuinely, it's a hard one, Jamie. Probably to be a bit more balanced. I think.
You mean personally or in business or both?
I think in both.
Okay.
You know, I've always one of these people, a little bit like electric switch. I'm either on or I'm off. You know, without going to the story from last week.
I've never seen the off part of you, so you're more like a power mains.
No, there's definitely. I promise you, there is an off. When I turn off, I just go. There's just stop in the corner. Well, so I think maybe a bit more balanced. You know that life is about balance, whether it's in your home life, your work life, whether it's about emotional balance, physical balance. You know. I probably had the balance too much into work, never looked after my health well enough, never looked after my children's, you know, interacting with them well enough. So I think I'd give myself balance. I'd give myself the advice my dad gave me, just to repeating it, whatever you do, do the best to your ability. I think that still holds true. And I guess the last bit, I would probably give myself, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and you don't need everything today. You know, be happy with what you've got. Yeah, be ambitious for more, but not to the negative point of view. And then just that whole honesty piece that wraps around it. Honest with yourself, honest with others.
Thank you for your honesty, lad. That's pretty real. It's pretty amazing.
And then probably tell yourself to get lost.
Yeah. So last question then, kind of closing this podcast off. Just as we look forward, look ahead, of course, management, leadership, whatever you want to frame it, people who are responsible for people who are responsible in organizations for making decisions, there's a degree of futureering, looking ahead, trying to anticipate without freaking out, like you said. You can't control what you can't control. As you look ahead yourself, personally and for the business, into what's coming in the future, are you feeling optimistic, feeling pessimistic? How do you think things are going to go? What are you telling yourself? What are you telling your people as you look forward?
First thing I'm saying is be ready.
Very good. Okay.
Be ready. You know, none of us are quite sure quite yet. We've got a view. I think my view is, look, we will defeat this virus. That I just take that for granted. You know, I'm expecting the best brains in the world are out there looking for little cures for it or treatments for it. And that will get cured. You know, can't speak so much for Ireland, but in the UK, I think we're going to hit a massive recession.
Okay.
You know, so I think we'll come out with this with huge debt, you know, with the probably shadow what we had at the end of World War II, which will all have to be paid back. Don't kid yourself. This money will have to be paid back. Mm-hmm. So, you know, as businesses and society, we're going to see higher taxation, higher levels of VAT. We're going to see the base costs go up across the board. We're going to see a complete shift in the supply chain. Many won't see this through, and you know, some of that would be positive because we'll see a new way of working and operating.
Yeah.
So you know, I think we're going to see that. We're going to see, I think, a much higher level of mental health that we're going to have to challenges and problems to deal with. And we're going to see, I think we're storing up a backlog of medical problems.
Yes.
People aren't being diagnosed. So I think, look, I'm very optimistic for the future, by the way.
I want to say that's a very pessimistic picture.
No, that's a realistic picture.
Very good.
That's a realistic picture.
So you're stating the obvious outcomes, but you're optimistic because.
Right. So first, I said, be ready.
Yeah.
If you know what you're being ready for,
excellent.
Be ready for that. Yeah.
There's the connection. Yeah.
I have great faith in the human species. Yeah. And anytime there's been a war, anytime there's been a revolution, anytime there's been something horrible that happens, the majority of times we come out of it stronger. Yeah. So I think the world that we know will evolve and change. So these days we used to have 300 people sat in an office, just on a basic level. We're probably going to see a lot of change in that. We're going to see more home working. We're going to see more in people valuing the small things. Mm-hmm. I said to last week, sort of regretted saying it about, I want to go and do this, I want to go and do that, and buy this and buy that. Whereas now I'm sat here and thinking those things aren't important to me anymore.
Yeah, very good.
So I think people will value, going to the pub for a pint with their friends. You know what I mean? People will value taking their family for a meal.
Yeah.
People will value going to the zoo, blah, blah. So I think we might get a reset of priorities. So I'm very optimistic. I think business-wise, business will get through. The strong will get through. The weak won't. And with respect, there's probably a lot of weak business that probably is better for the people in them not to go through.
Yeah.
Reinvent yourself, re-go again. Every successful person has the failure in the bank. I've told you that before. Mm-hmm. Failure is not to be ashamed of, but recognize, as I always say to our business, look, it's one thing about kidding the rest of the world, but let's not kid ourselves.
Very good.
We're not good at something, let's be clear about it. So I'm optimistic. I think there's some difficult challenges coming ahead. I think as an organization, we're preparing ourselves for those challenges. We're still out there. We're still doing things. We're getting ready for it. We're still investing. We're still doing what we need to do. But we have to be ready for a lot more change in the future. So I think it's the same for everyone. It's the same for yourself. So how are you in your religious? What you've been doing? Whoever thought with respect to the Catholic Church and your church, the Lighthouse would be closed on Sundays, but you found a new way of engaging with your communities, and it's the same in business. You got to find a new way of engaging and delivering your product or your service. So I'm optimistic that will be really quick for Ireland and for England, by the way. For both. So I'm optimistic for the future. I'm realistic about the challenges ahead. But so I don't mind challenges. If you know what they are, you can deal with them. It's when you get blindsided by something that expect the unexpected, but plan for the worst, hope for the best.
Absolutely. Well, that is a great way to finish our time. Colin, thank you again for sharing. You've had a crazy day. I was chatting to you before you came on the call and still you made time, so appreciate that. Yeah. And again, to all of our listeners or those watching this evening, if you have any more questions about this call in particular, if you even have questions for Colin that we could maybe post and you get answers for, or for us, simply go to our website, lighthouseChurch.ie, click on the next steps link, and we'd love to connect with you. As we look forward optimistically, we look forward realistically to the future. There are challenges ahead, but we will get through them. And there was some great wisdom and principles today, not only for business leaders or managers, but also for people who are serving as volunteers in various nonprofit organizations. Absolute gold. I know it'll be a help to you as it has been to me. So Colin, again, thank you very much. And thank you everyone for watching this week. We shall see you soon. Good luck.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. We hope you found this content inspiring and helpful. If you'd like to comment or submit a question, simply email us at info@lighthousechurch.ie. That's it for now, but remember, When life gives you lemons, don't get bitter, make lemonade.